so let's get to the biggest thing of the week. Really is the Facebook whistleblower story. You and I have talked offline a little bit. Let's get right to this video and all of its obnoxiousness. And 60 Minutes did the exclusive that followed. Frances, is it Haugen? Went to Wall Street Journal. She released her documents. She's basically smuggled out thousands of documents, and she's allegedly doing the whistleblower. Let's go ahead and just play a little bit and see.
Her name is Frances Haugen.
Haugen.
That is a
Haugen.
fact
Thank you
that
for
Facebook
that.
has been anxious to know since last month, when an anonymous former employee filed complaints with federal law enforcement. The complaints say Facebook's own research shows that it amplifies hate, misinformation, and political unrest.
So right out of the bat, we get all these subjective things like hate, just these ambiguous terms that is part of this, crackdown on misinformation and all that other stuff. Oh, wow, look at that. I'm losing my battery. That can't be good in the middle of a live stream. That'd be terrible. So let's move along a little bit here. This was chock full of information for me. Let's get right to her, though. Back up just a tad right here. So
a bunch of social networks, and it was substantially worse at Facebook than anything I'd seen before.
Someone else might have just quit and moved on. And I wonder why you take this stand.
So let me ask you, Sneaker, what do you think her stance is? What do you think she's going to say? Before we think about our opinions, what did you think when you saw this? Because I actually didn't know much. I actually heard about it. And then when I started to watch the video, I'd only seen a couple clips, and then I started watching it from here, and I thought, well, she's going to be out there to battle all the hatred and all the misinformation and the terrible people that are ruining America. Is that kind of how you think of things when you see stories like this?
Yeah, I mean, I came into it with my opinion now wasn't my opinion when I first saw it.
That's what I was getting at. Yep.
I was genuinely curious as to what she was going to say, and I did think that it was going to be a decent answer. It wasn't what the answer ended up being.
Right, I agree. It definitely was a different story than I thought it kind of was.
Imagine what's going on inside of Facebook, and no one on the outside knows. I knew what my future looked like if I continued to stay inside of Facebook, which is person after person after person has tackled this inside of Facebook and ground themselves to the ground.
When and how?
So what was interesting with that part there for me was that she made it seem as though no one knows what's going on at Facebook. And I didn't find really any of this particularly revolutionary, by the way. I mean, I really did not. I didn't find anything revolutionary at all, actually. So, yeah, sorry, spoiler alert, folks. She's not got as much to say as she thinks she does.
Question that this is real.
She secretly copied tens of thousands.
Look at this. Secretly copied. Oh, geez.
This is how Fiverr changed my life.
Ads. Just ridiculous.
My name is Drew, and I'm the face and hands.
We don't care, Drew. Just get me to the skip. It's ridiculous.
Thousands of pages of Facebook internal research against hate, violence.
Oh, wait. Let's get that because they repeat the same. Hate,
One
violence,
study
misinformation.
she found from
and
this year
studies
says we estimate that we may action as little as 3 to 5% of hate.
How would you quantify hate, Alex?
You can't, and that's why they're saying it.
Yeah, I'm just curious on what the formula would be for quantifying
what
hate.
she disagrees with.
Correct.
We have evidence from a variety of sources that hate speech, divisive political speech, and misinformation on Facebook and the family of apps are affecting societies around the world.
Do you think that also means the Hunter Biden story and the laptop story that they removed?
No, of course not. Of course it doesn't mean that. I mean, it should mean that, but it doesn't mean that, though. She was there to make sure that stuff didn't make it through.
That's correct. She actually worked for the group that censored that, as we're going to get to. That isn't spelled out. We have to plug in some of those gaps for ourselves.
It erodes our civic trust. It erodes our faith in each other. It erodes our ability to want to care for each other. The version of Facebook that exists today is tearing our societies apart and causing ethnic violence around the world.
Ethnic violence, including Myanmar in 2018, when the military used Facebook to launch a genocide.
Okay, so I had to look into that, so I make sure we could properly fact check all of that. Let me put it back where it was, so at least the image matches our conversation. So I had to go back and make sure that I did check out some of that information there. And I probably skipped over a part I wanted to kind of focus on a little bit. The BBC did the entire breakdown of how the government there used Facebook. But what was interesting about the story as it's transpired was these folks had no internet at all. So it wasn't as though Facebook is not a competitor in this grand scheme of information and trying to communicate with people or anything like that. They have no information. They use Facebook. So this group trying to form a coup basically uses the only mechanism of information and dissemination into the country. And then once they have control, then they shut it down, just like most dictators do. So no surprise there that that's what's going to happen. So it is it was misleading on how she and the 2020 presentation presents that, because they make it seem as though there's also Google, there's also Twitter, there's also like news outlet. There is not in this country. This is Burma, for those of you who are old school like me. This is a third world country that was easy to control information. So that was the first thing. And one thing I skipped over, and I don't want to rewind because I know we're on the clock a little bit. She had said very early on about the conflicts of interest, the good for Facebook and the good for the public. I don't know you about Alex, but I thought Facebook is a public traded company and that their good was to make money for their shareholders. Did you not know that?
Well, that's right. But unless you're an anti-capitalist, which is obviously what this woman is that wouldn't be a problem for you. But for her, it is. And it really comes down to they weren't subscribing to what she wanted Facebook to do. So now, because she won't subscribe to what Facebook wants her to do, now she copied all those documents meticulously, by the way, developed phenomenal talking points, which we'll go into why that is a little bit here, and then decided to go. And but remember, she hasn't been working for Facebook very long. She was only there for a couple of years.
Correct. Yep. Sorry. So let's go back to our video clip, move along just a little bit. We get to another ambiguous point I thought was strange.
The first quarter of 2019.
Frances Haugen told us she was recruited by Facebook in 2019. She says she agreed to take the job only if she could work against misinformation, because she had lost a friend to online conspiracy theories.
All right, so I had to dive deeper in that, and we talked about this offline just a minute, because neither one of us at the time knew exactly what this was about. This story is super, super deep. So let me go ahead and switch the screen over, folks, because I want you to see what I'm seeing, so you'll know what I'm talking about. Because I'm going to read from it, but I wanted you to know I didn't just pull this out of nowhere. The Guardian actually has a story about losing a friend. Okay, so this is details her story, and in here she reveals what actually happened. And it was not at all, again, Alex, we've talked about it, not at all what you think. She basically says the exact same thing. I lost a friendship. I lost him. Okay. Now, what had happened, let me get this to close. Okay, there we go. Haugen was a successful tech professional with a CV that included stints at Pinterest and Google. But a decade ago, she was diagnosed with celiac disease, an autoimmune condition, and in 2014, she entered an intensive care unit with a blood clot in her thigh. A family friend was hired to help her with daily tasks such as shopping, but their relationship deteriorated as he became obsessed with online forums touting conspiracy theories about dark forces manipulating politics. It was really important friendship, and then I lost him. So this is pretty much, as far as I can tell, connecting the dots. She says this former friend has abandoned his conspiracy beliefs, dragged him into the world of the occult and white nationalism. There you go. So that's what she meant when she talked about losing a friend, as far as I can assess. I searched everywhere else. That's the only area that I could find where she's connected some dots about who she may or may not be talking about. Any thoughts or opinions on that, Alex?
Well, here's the thing. At this time of political upheaval, or whatever you want to call it, political division, I can really understand how you have people that separate from them, separate out. Now, she's going to use it's a white national thing or whatever. Until you talk to the guy, you don't really know what he's talking about. This could be something as similar as, it could be a myriad of things. She's putting white nationalism on it, or white nationalism being put on it, but that doesn't mean that that's the case. There's a lot of people they claim are white nationalists that aren't actually white nationalists. So I think that what it has to do more with is that this guy had an opinion that she didn't agree with, so she severed the relationship.
I agree. Now, again, like you say, a lot of individuals and groups are conflated with alt-right, right-wing, and white nationalism. So, all right, let's try to move a little bit further into our video.
I never wanted anyone to feel the pain that I had felt. And I had seen how high the stakes were in terms of making sure there was high quality information on Facebook.
At headquarters, she was assigned to Civic Integrity, which worked on risks to elections, including misinformation.
All right. So what is civic integrity? So I had to go to an article that it's from theinformation.com. Talk about made up sounding place, but they literally broke this story on Facebook. And again, I'm going to switch screens. I want you folks to see what I'm seeing, so you know I didn't just come up with this. I had not heard of The Information, but I will give them total credit because they are cited as the source in other locations. So this is the website. This is the article. I'm going to not go through reading it all because I've already actually done the whole read now button, subscribe stuff, so I could get the whole story, so I can give it to you guys. Alex Heath, he's a reporter. He broke all of this down and talked about breaking up the social network's role in elections globally, dispersing the team of roughly 300 people. So she's not the only one. There's 300 people. The employees from Civic Integrity, who have been the center of Facebook's contested decisions on how to handle posts from politicians such as President Trump and its influence on politically fragile countries like Myanmar, will now join teams in a bigger organization called Central Integrity under Facebook Vice President Guy Rosen. So they disbanded Civil Integrity, but they didn't go away with the principles of trying to do this. They just shifted it under a different umbrella. Furthermore, they go down in the article, a couple more paragraphs later. Over the last 2 years, senior leaders have resisted some of the unit's proposals to move more aggressively on misleading and harmful posts from politicians, including a push to throttle their engagement earlier this year. So I want to make sure that I'm getting this straight. As I read this, Alex, sounds to me like she was interested in increasing the censorship, throttling what President Trump and other people can say, and controlling the narrative. And Facebook actually said no.
Yeah. No. You got to understand. Don't get me wrong. Facebook is not necessarily the good guy in this matter, but they're not the bad guy when it comes to this woman right here. This woman, and you can tell from federal elections donations, she's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's far left. That's who she gives money to. And that means that her opinion is that of an authoritarian psychopath. And she went to Facebook for the specific reason to stop anybody that she disagreed with from being able to use that platform to spread their information. Because what they say is misinformation isn't always misinformation. Look, sometimes it's wrong, but it's not always wrong. And what they do is they put everything under the guise of misinformation in order to throttle her political enemies on a platform that she could control, which was Facebook. And their problem was, and why she's the quote unquote whistleblower now, is because they wouldn't go as far as she wanted them to go. And as soon as the election was over, they backed off, which only goes to show you how Facebook was wrong during the election cycle.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to go back because this is just to let you know. So this is the quote from Facebook. And again, this is written in the end of 2020 to discuss the change of the staffing. So this is in December of 2020. This is the quote. It says, "We continue to have teams and people dedicated to elections and will expand on the work of the civic team to focus on areas for the company." Now, when she continues, you're going to see and hear her not convey Facebook as though they do anything. They say in the article, Facebook staff deployed some of these measures, and again, talking about their role in political discourse, labeling disputed posts and algorithmic suppression of hoaxes. So that means during this time, they are still labeling posts, using disclaimers, especially on COVID-related content, and they are suppressing, using their algorithms, information they consider to be a hoax. So let me ask you, is Hunter Biden's laptop a hoax? Because it was treated as such.
Yep.
Then it goes on to say, last year, researchers from the team proposed ending a whitelist of political accounts that are exempt from fact checking. So her group was trying to get rid of the whitelist. And a whitelist means we have vetted you, the company, therefore we can say you're not out there peddling a bunch of misinformation. Tim Pool has talked about this extensively. He's had to build a relationship with YouTube over the years for them to know he's not out there just making up garbage. He's not trying to cheat their system. He's trying to follow their rules. If he's being flagged, it's not due to malice. It's not due to malintent. So it's called a whitelist. So you can get your stuff on a whitelist. And I guarantee all of the big company news agencies are all on whitelists. This group, her department that she's trying to advocate, was doing such a great job, was trying to end the white group. So let's go a little further, because that's not how she conveys it.
But after this past election, there was a turning point.
They told us we're dissolving civic integrity. Like they basically said, oh, good, we made it through the election. There wasn't riots. We can get rid of civic integrity now. Fast forward a couple of months, we got the insurrection.
All right, hard stop there. I mean, I hard stopped, I paused the video, and I walked away. All right, Alex, let me ask you this. I want you and I are both plugged into the news so much, not only with the stuff that we do, your shows, your show prep, things that you're listening to, shows, YouTube, you name it, politicians. Can you name anyone on the right, anyone in libertarian circles, anyone really in that group that refers to January 6th as an insurrection? Because I don't know of anyone, not a single person. Therefore, her use of the term deepens her as a progressive to at least Bernie bro status. And I want to say even more so because I didn't know that she was an AOC donor when I saw that. I didn't know she was into donating to all the far leftists. I was like, just hard stop at insurrection. I'm like, okay, well, at least I know who I'm dealing with. Is any of my assessment remotely off base? Anything remotely wrong? You agree?
No, you're giving her credit, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to be as objective as I can, analyzing what she's saying, how she's describing it, trying to align it with the time frames, using all of the information that the other news agencies have provided. I don't think she's pulling the curtain back on anything that we didn't know. I think she's a bitter person that couldn't get Facebook to censor more. And I think the
Mhm.
fact that she uses terms like insurrection and hate the way she does, it shows who she really is.
She went to
Right.
Facebook, and again, just my opinion based off of listening to what she said. She went to Facebook for the sole purpose of being able to censor speech of people that she disagrees with. I
I
mean,
agree.
you can put whatever label you want to put on it, but that's what she's doing. I mean, again, I don't want to spoiler alert this one just yet, but that's exactly what she was there to do. She kind of admits it as much. She has very, very specific wording that she's using for a reason, and she was well coached to do it. There's a whistleblower firm or whatever on the left that she actually is being represented by, is getting talking points from,
Yes.
that she,
Yep.
like, this is such a raw deal for Facebook that it's not even funny. Like, and this is why Facebook shouldn't have done what they did. They should have left it as a free speech platform and just let anybody say what they wanted to say and left it at that. The fact that they started going down this road is their own fault.
I agree. The leftists will eat their own. They're going to come for you. All right, let's let her keep going.
And when they got rid of civic integrity, it was the moment where I was like, I don't trust that they're willing to actually invest what needs to be invested to keep Facebook from being dangerous.
Okay.
Facebook
I know I keep interrupting the stream, folks. Keep Facebook from being dangerous. There's not an ounce of interest in free speech coming out of this woman's mouth. Nothing.
None.
Facebook is a social media, a private company, but now we're going to treat it as this dangerous entity. Now, ask yourself the difference between the right and the left and how they want to handle all of social media, but particularly Facebook. From what I can assess, the right wants all free speech. Just open the door. So unless it's illegal, which is where I'm at, unless it's actually a crime, and then Facebook shouldn't do anything, they should be calling the authorities. That's my opinion. I don't care if they unravel human trafficking. It's not their job to handle the human traffickers. It's their job to call the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
The people on the left want to get rid of whitelist, censor what they call hate, misinformation, and other individuals. That's pretty much what I'm hearing. I'm hearing Facebook is dangerous right out of her mouth, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
I mean, she admits it. This is where she's coming from. This is not someone who went into this with some sort of free speech advocacy. She's admitted as much.
No, she totally, from the beginning. Look, she had a friendship with someone that started believing in what she considered to be conspiracy theories. And because of that, she ended that friendship, or it ended for whatever reason, and she was hurt by it. So in order for her to find some way to have some kind of moral justification, she went to Facebook with the sole intent of being part of the Facebook police that was there to censor speech.
I agree. This has been something
Well, hold on. And I want to say one other thing.
As the
And if
work
they
of civic
didn't do what
integrity
she-
was distributed to other.
Yep.
Now, I was going to say
I
this.
want you to get you your screen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And if they didn't do what she wanted them to do, then she was going to make them pay.
And that's what she's doing now. She's got an Obama firm helping her. She is being propped up by this far left group that is more than happy to keep throwing her under the bus. And I tell you what, all right, let's get back to our clip. Oh, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Got it. Okay. Wait, I don't want to do that. I want to do it like this because they're going to get mad at me. All I do is battle copyright issues with our full
units.
streams.
In 2018,
Haugen told us the root of Facebook's problem is in a change that it made in 2018 to its algorithms, the programming that decides what you see on your Facebook newsfeed.
So, you have your phone, you might see only 100 pieces of content if you sit and scroll for, 5 minutes. But Facebook has thousands of options it could show you.
The algorithm
Again,
picked.
I'm only pausing and I'm only interrupting here because I don't think any of this is newsworthy. I think it's been so overblown. This clip is the one that's gone viral. Like they keep playing over and over and over again, as though it's some sort of revolutionary thing for you to know. Most people at this point on Facebook probably have so many friends that at some point or they'll be reminded of a friend that they're not seeing posts from. And then it occurs to them, oh, because Facebook's not showing me their stuff. The moment you interact with them and tell them happy birthday or whatever, then you're seeing their stuff again. This is not rocket science. This is not any surprise. What's been a surprise is Facebook and YouTube in particular, leave Twitter out of it because most people are not even on Twitter, but YouTube and Facebook is that they manipulate all of that stuff. And it's through the ads, it's through the companies that are paying to be in front of your eyes. And then it's like she's saying, they're manipulating what they consider false information and hate and good players and bad players and all of that. So just making sure I add some commentary to this little piece that's been so overblown and overwrought. I don't
Picks from
care.
those options based on the kind of content you've engaged with the most.
Let's get
Hateful, that is
let me
divisive,
get to this. All right.
a reaction. But its own research is showing that content that is hateful, that is divisive, that is polarizing, it's easier to inspire people to anger than it is to other emotions.
Again, is there an ounce of this, Alex? Is there an ounce of that that's really revolutionary? I mean, isn't this why we have negative political ads? There's nothing revolutionary. Exactly why we have political ads.
Look, she's blaming Facebook for human nature.
Yeah, it's so deflective. I just couldn't believe. And this who decided to let why are we having Mr. Boomer do the interview here? They have so many people at 60 Minutes that could have done this. Why are we getting this guy? There's not a single moment that I have seen where he has really pressed her in a challenging way at all. He's
laid it out.
An absolute joke. What'd you say, Alex?
No, he's laying it out for her. I mean, he's there to make her look good, not to get a story.
Yeah, I agree.
Information, angry content
Yeah,
is enticing to people and
very enticing.
keeps them on the platform.
Yes. Facebook has realized that if they change the algorithm to be safer, people will spend less time on the site, they'll click on less ads, they'll make less money.
Of course. And then look at what the shot is. I pause on purpose. I want you to soak it in of how biased this ridiculousness is. We don't see more than what really occurred to me here with the 60 Minutes editing is they not only do this one Trump rally picture, they don't change the pictures. So when you edit, you normally try to stick on things only for a couple seconds because our eyes get bored. Our brains don't have much of attention span. They stay on this image.
Haugen says
Let's zoom
Facebook
in,
understood
zoom
the
in,
danger to the
zoom in.
2020 election,
Before we changed
so
to
it
Facebook.
turned on safety
I thought that was
systems.
actually a weird edit because they went directly from the Trump rally to the Facebook logo. And I may
Well,
be just
because they
reading
want to
too much into
conflict the
things, but
two.
that's the
They want
right. They're trying to conflate
together.
it, right? You agree with me? Okay, good. I didn't think anything was not on purpose with the agenda that's being driven here. Having the old guy who has to be walked through algorithm talks, and then he plays lawyer, so now he's leading her with where he wants the conversation to go. It was just, I don't know. All right, let's jump ahead here to the
Back to what they were before, to prioritize growth over safety. And that really feels like a betrayal of democracy to me.
All right, I got it back. I didn't do that justice. Oh, we hit another ad. You got to be kidding.
People with ADHD.
All right. Well, my ADHD will pop up here in a moment as I try to wait for the.
You want to know what messes with democracy, by the way? Stifling free speech.
I agree. There's nothing greater than stifling free speech and gun control. Two things that the left are like losing like any sense of constitutional focus on it all is why most people are living with some trepidations about all of this.
Or they changed the settings back to what they were before to prioritize growth over safety. And that really feels like a betrayal of democracy to me.
Just gross.
Facebook says some of the safety systems remained, but after the election,
More MAGA stuff, by the way. More It's just really a manipulated photo. Notice this is not a real, it's like a totally edited, photoshopped. This is a total filter right here, folks, in the middle of the screen. That is not a legitimately genuine photo.
Facebook was used by some to organize the January 6th insurrection. Prosecutors cite Facebook.
And I want to be clear when they say that, and again, Alex, you can correct me. I'll bounce to you when I'm done. When they say this is organization, what they really mean in a lot of ways are like Facebook pages that people have these organizational pages and say, here's the information for the rally. That's what they meant. When you go into these investigations and these hearings, these different things that people that testified to, that's what they said, right?
That's right. No. It's just they made a group page for the rally to go down for that day. That's it. That's all it was. Just they made a group page so people would go to that thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, you know what? Let me just say this too. I hate
very
what they did on the
this was
January 6th freaking riot. I despise what they did. But one of the reasons I despise what they did is because not only was it absolutely useless for what their stated goal was, but now this is used as a bat to beat everybody else over the head with, because you had a bunch of stupid people that decided to raid the Capitol because they don't understand friggin' elections or politics.
Yeah, it was a complete waste of time of everything. And look at the imagery that they used to try to make their point. So tell me that this is okay. I want to switch our screen because I want to. No, yeah, I want to go to this one. Yeah. So obviously, the entire agenda of 60 Minutes is revealed in this sequence because they're not showing you anything that Facebook could remotely be censoring from the left. There's no BLM. There's no Antifa. There's nothing from the left. No political, nothing. Look at all of this. It's all, it's so blatantly.
Facebook is a recurring theme.
Yeah, this is it just keeps going. And then we get into
on an internal message board copied by Haugen. Haven't we had enough time to figure out how to manage discourse without enabling violence? We looked for positive comments and found this. I don't think our leadership team ignores data, ignores dissent, ignores truth.
So there's obviously some back and forth, and there are some good players here at Facebook trying to say, listen, people are trying to do the best they can. But she is really, really going after their lack of censorship. I mean, it is her agenda. Let me see here what else to get to real quick.
But that drew this reply. Welcome to Facebook. I see you just joined in November 2020. We have been watching wishy-washy actions of company leadership for years now. Colleagues cannot conscience working for a company that does not do more to mitigate the negative effects of its platform.
So that just shows you the internal battle that they have with these leftists, man. The leftists have infiltrated Facebook, and they're all about censoring it. Alex, what would your takeaway from just that little sequence of these memos? I was just like, geez, Louise.
Well, here's the thing. Again, I don't know if you can find out when she actually contacted or when her first plan was to get these pages. But if you're going to get thousands and thousands or tens of thousands of pages of documents meticulously kept, you were doing this for a long time. You were doing it for a while. It makes it seem to me like that was your plan all along. And that's the part I think that irks me more than anything else is this seems so contrived. And again, when I first heard about it, I wanted to almost give her the benefit of the doubt. I like Facebook as a platform, but I don't like how they censor speech. I don't like how they do it. They didn't used to do it that way, but they do it that way now. This woman's problem, and that's what well, Democrats and Republicans both have a problem with Facebook. Well, the difference is Democrats want them to censor more, Republicans want them to censor less. So they both have a problem, but it's very disingenuous to talk about only one of the sides of the problem and not this woman here. And again, I want to make sure I say things nicely. I'll leave my 4-letter words for Saturday when I talk about this woman. But when you see what she did, this was done completely by design. And I got to tell you, I think that there was politicians that were involved from the beginning on this one. She ended up being a plant. Maybe she wasn't a plant right off the bat, but she went there with the agenda of getting Facebook to do more. They didn't do it, so she took action.
Yeah, and that's what she admits to. So let's let her.
Is malevolent, but the incentives are misaligned, right? Like Facebook makes more money when you consume more content. People enjoy engaging with things that elicit an emotional reaction. And the more anger that they get exposed to, the more they interact and more they consume.
She sure isn't causing any objections to like Occupy Democrats. Have you ever been on Occupy Democrats, Alex?
I've seen it.
Yeah, it's volatile. It's full of hate, vitriol, nastiness, especially when President Trump was in office. I mean, it was like hardcore rated R images and memes and all sorts of stuff and profanity and whatever. And it was like, she didn't have any problem with any of that. Just reminding our audience out there, just, know that this is not, objective.
That dynamic led to a complaint to Facebook by major political parties across Europe.
All right, so then we get into the European stuff about,
has forced them to skew negative.
Basically, the European countries, some of them are trying to say the only way we're going to keep our rankings where people are seeing our stuff is if we have like negative attack ads and stuff like that. And basically, it's the same problem as it is in America. If you put out a positive ad, you put out a negative ad. Reality is the emotions get more response, and Facebook is no different than anything else. It'd be the same thing if we looked at data that's on YouTube.
You are forcing us to take positions that we don't like, that we know are bad for society. We know if we don't take those positions, we won't win in the marketplace of social media.
Yeah, so she's got a problem with that perspective is basically what she's trying to get at here.
Yeah. No, what she's saying is
back on, so
if you put up two different opinions and one of them is not one she likes, and if you don't get rid of it, then that is the bad part of democracy, or that's ruining democracy. When in all reality, what she is, and again, I'll say the nice word, she is an authoritarian psychopath that wants to use Facebook to stifle any opinion that she doesn't like, period. She can put any other name on it that she wants to. She can call it hate. She can call it misinformation. She can call it whatever she wants to call it. But at the end of the day, it was opinion she didn't like. And so she was like, well, I'm going to use my job in order to make sure these people can't do this and get them off the platform. And when Facebook wouldn't be as authoritarian as she was, I'm going to take all these documents and bring them down. And then, and hold on, and we haven't gotten to this part yet. And in testimony that she's given now, her solution is to start a governmental organization and put her in charge.
Yeah, because she's the authoritarian. She's the only voice that we can listen to.
Yeah, and who is she to tell people what's good and what's not good, by the way? It's her opinion.
I don't know. I lost Alex. I know. Look at his face. He's such a Nimrod.
Teenage girls.
All right, so this is where we get into the
One study
Instagram
says-
stuff. This is also blown up and gone viral, and all of that's out there. And I don't even want to get into all that. Again, my takeaway from all of that, my takeaway from all the Instagram stuff, Alex, you tell me what you think. We're blaming Facebook that teenage girls are suicidal and they're conscious about their weight in the middle of a pandemic that has proven statistically to be showing the exact same things that has nothing to do with Instagram.
Hey, look, when you want to get the government involved, wrap it around old people or wrap it around kids. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean,
she stands on the graves of dead children to advance her political agenda. She's the worst kind of human that there is.
All right, so we're probably going to run long on time, but I want to get to quickly. This obviously you mentioned briefly the hearing, right? So she has proposed this federal agency focused on digital economy. The articles that are going viral now, the Washington Post has the one that I spent the most time on. It evokes a FCC chair under President Obama, Tom Wheeler, basically echoing all the things. So he's putting his weight behind her, propping her up as though she's some sort of voice of reason, and this is the direction we should go. And they use, and I want to make sure I get the article to open properly so we can pull out of it briefly. Share the screen. It's called Facebook is Harming Our Society. Here's a radical solution for reining it in. At least they admit it's radical. Gotta give them credit for that. That's new.
Yeah.
They don't usually do that. Wheeler says you need an agent that doesn't say, here are the rigid rules, when the rules become obsolete almost immediately. Too much of the digital world operates according to Mark Zuckerberg's famous motto, move fast and break things. Well, okay. He calls that the consequence-free behavior. I mean, this is full-on loaded gun pointed at Facebook, in my opinion. This is nuts. Again, I actually didn't agree with Wheeler when he called Facebook and Google pseudo governments, but they're not really pseudo governments because they're actually in bed with the government. And then it was the formation, I believe you called it right. I forget the name of it. Basically, the government, a brand new government regulatory agency, and she is this great voice and role model, and they can look at her as this great example and beacon of light that would be able to solve all of these ilks and all of these different ways that we cannot manage controlling, all the talk words, hate, misinformation, and all of that kind of stuff. The articles that are now taking, I mean, they're going to go nuts like this for a few more days unless something else changes. They include now topics that were not even brought up before. They're talking about misinformation and stuff about the border, immigration policy. They're talking about misinformation and stuff about abortion policy. And I'm like, wow, they use this as the floodgate to come in and say, we want total control of what can go across Facebook.
Mm-hmm. That's what they want. I mean, that's what she wants. She went to Facebook with that sole purpose. And now that she couldn't make her way in there, now she's going out to get government to do it for her and to make an agency so she can be in charge of Mark Zuckerberg because she doesn't agree with Mark Zuckerberg. Look, again, I may not like the way that Facebook operates, but Facebook is still a private organization and they can do what they want. And when you call them like a government actor, you know what Facebook can't do? They can't come to my house and kill me. You know what government can, though? Facebook can't do that. Facebook is very easy to not use. You just don't go to the app. All right? You build a better mousetrap. Look, maybe you build something that you like where it's only nice things and you can control content that way. You want to know what the problem is with that? The problem is no one would go on it, or very few people would go on it, or end up being Twitter where it's just basically useless at this point, and nobody else uses Twitter at this point for any real things. I mean, it's just a bunch of people that all agree with each other on there, and everybody goes to different networks. I'd like to see some real competition for Facebook. What I don't want to see is regulation. Because if you're not gonna regulate Facebook, you're regulating everyone else to not even be able to compete against Facebook, and that's the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I could agree more. I know, Alex, you're up against the clock. We won't really have much time for much else. I want to give a shout out to the boss. Brian Gilly came in for a while. Said, "What up, fellas?" So that was good to see him pop in and say, "Hey to you, Brian. It's good to see you as always. You're always welcome to jump in. Boss is always welcome to join. So that invitation's out there." Alex, I know you have to run. Just going to preview. You can always check the stream afterwards as well, folks. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna run through a couple more of the stories and give you some of those thoughts. But Alex can be hit up over here, Unattended Baggage Patreon, every Saturday. You're gonna see the posts come out. There's some different things you can catch on that evil website, Facebook, where he puts there. You can get those links as there as well. Patreon.com, Unattended Baggage, and you can join their show and contribute to their cause. So, Alex, thanks for everything, man. Always good.
You can get the R-rated rant of what I just talked about on Sunday.
With you and Adrian turned on this topic and this woman. And again, it'd be different if she was actually a whistleblower or showing us anything that was. I actually thought when I heard the story, I thought, it's just been more information about censorship of the right and whatever. And I thought, well, maybe she's got the white list. Maybe she's got the blacklist. There's a whitelist. There's a blacklist. Things like that. Maybe it's information about that. And then I start to see the one clip, and I'm like, well, it's about Instagram and it's about that. I'm like, all right, well, that was just social engineering stuff. And I didn't really dive into this. And then I earmarked it. When you and I talked, I was like, all right, well, let me get into this. And I started to go down the rabbit hole. I had 4 pages of notes to make. Like I said, I had to go and I had to research this. Where was she then? And when did this happen? When did this happen? Within just 5 or 7 minutes. And this 2020, they just sit there. They just sit there, do nothing. It's an abomination. So I can't imagine how the two of you. I would love to take one. I should take your show clip and download it and then just put in all the little beeps for the profanity and see how much audio is left.
Hey, we're News Talk with Brandon and Bob. We're here to tell you about some of the facts so you don't have to waste your time watching CNN.
We don't want you wasting any time with CNN.
Or Fox or MSNBC or some of these other guys that are making a whole lot of money.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Not paying.